All right, Town of Groveland, welcome. Planning Board meeting Tuesday, March 18th, 2025, 7 PM, Town Hall. Our agenda tonight, we have a public hearing for the 2025 zoning changes, 181R School Street, Billis Way, public hearing for 441 Main Street, SD Park, and then we have our standard town planner updates and any other items. So,
Motion to open?
Seconded.
thanks, appreciate it. All those in favor?
Aye.
So moved. All right, so I just read the agenda. We're going to move things around a little bit. We are waiting for, Stephanie's in another meeting down the hall. She will be back here to talk about the zoning in a moment, so we're going to switch things around. We have TEC here for, we'll jump into Billis Way, roadway acceptance recommendation. So we have a memorandum from today. On behalf of the Town of Groveland Planning Board, TEC has performed a peer review as an as-built plan for a roadway and residential development of Billis Way in Groveland.
So, Mr. Chair, we had the Select Board meet on March 17th, which was yesterday, and they opened their public hearing for the laying out of the way, which is part of the street acceptance process. And part of that process is to then go and refer the item to the Planning Board to make a recommendation to the Select Board before they actually make a recommendation as to whether or not they approve the laying out of the way, which then gets put forward to the town meeting vote. At that particular meeting, it was called into question as to the way that the roadway was designed and the shoulders that were off of the right-of-way, the paved right-of-way. If you recall, at the last annual town meeting, we had tried to go through the street acceptance process for Billis Way. At that particular point in time, we found that on the deed, the way that the properties were deeded to the property owners, it included the fee and interest in the roadway to the property owners. Therefore, the mechanism and way in which we were trying to go about street acceptance was not proper. So we could not move forward with street acceptance for Billis Way. We reached an agreement with the property or the applicant at the time, who was Al Couillard, who put together the development, that he would continue to plow the roadway, and the Select Board approved trash pickup for 1 year, thinking that we would go through the street acceptance process and it would be accepted at the annual town meeting that we're supposed to hold on April 28th. So, that being said, we received an objection from one of the property owners that they did not want us to move forward with the street acceptance and had some concerns about the taking of the property. Because again, the way that the property was taken, or the way that the property was given to the current owners, we would need to take the property by eminent domain, being the roadway, in order to have it under our jurisdiction so that we can maintain, plow, and provide services to that road. As part of that, again, we asked TC to take a look at the actual design and the as-built to ensure that what was approved and what was put forward was in compliance with the subdivision rules and regulations that the planning board approved. So that's the memo that you have before you right now. And the process is to, again, refer this item to the planning board by the select board so that you can provide a recommendation to the select board on whether they should approve the laying out of the way and put this forward to town meeting for a vote for acceptance.
Okay. Thank you. You guys all get that?
Yep.
Anyone have any questions?
And so the high view of it is TEC says it seems to comply based on their review. And that's the latest document that we received today.
Correct, and you'll have in your packet that there's the correspondence for the objection of the Billis
Right.
Way taking, which details their reasons for their objection. And again, the question as to why the road was built the way that it was and why it's not just the paved area that's in question and why it includes the sidewalk and the shoulder and those portions was what the memo that TEC put together to describe to you why that was done, because that is what we require as our subdivision rules and regulations. That is what is required for a developer to get approval for a definitive subdivision, and that is what is required for the town to accept the roadway. So changes to that would make it non-compliant, therefore the town would not willingly want to accept the roadway because it does not meet its standards. So Pete is here to speak to the subdivision rules and regulations and to what we require, why it is required by standard, and what was built, and what they signed off on the as-built as saying what they confirmed the developer built on the actual road.
Does the town take any position, or do you have an opinion about, the objector is asking for assurances, is what it looks like here. Do we have any thoughts about, how that might play? The town's not prepared to make any.
So from our typical standpoint, we don't make any assurances because we never know who's going to be in elected office, who's going to be on the board. It
Sure.
is town property. We don't technically try and limit the ability of the town to make future decisions if they wanted to do so. And if we are spending taxpayer dollars on the maintenance and services of a roadway, we would want to leave our options open so that we could make sure that we're serving the best interest of the town as a whole and not a select member of people.
Sure.
Therefore, it would remain private, and we wouldn't need to worry about any of that.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Good evening. Peter Ellison with TEC. We're the civil engineering peer review for the board. Rebecca just gave a great summary. Today's memo was
You
really,
just make sure that's on. They can, oh, the green.
it's
Is it
green.
working? Okay.
Green is go.
I was looking at the thing. Yeah, thank you.
In general, I think Rebecca just made a great summary of the memo today that was written for you, but I guess I'm here to say, in my opinion, we looked at the as-built plans, we looked at the original design plans. Everything that was designed and built out there on Billis Way is per the subdivision regulations in town. In my opinion, it's standard practice to have the roadway centered on a wider swath of right-of-way that will be later accepted by the town. So naturally, the roadway is going to be centered and there'll be buffer zones on either side of the road. That wouldn't be a paved area, but is still technically part of the right-of-way. And if the board has any other questions about that, I'm happy to answer.
Jason,
No,
what, you were at the meeting last night?
yes.
What was the feedback, any feedback from there? Any, takeaway? What was the select board's final,
The select board
ultimately?
voted to give it to you guys to make the recommendation.
Okay.
And Mr. Chair, we did provide the Zoom link to the woman who wrote the objection letter. She's not here, but the other gentleman who also spoke at the select board meeting is present here this evening.
Okay. You, Mr. Andrew?
I am.
Would you like to say,
I would.
did you have something you want to say?
Public meeting, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Most of, and I did this last night, so I'm going
Just-
to apologize.
Just come right up. Sorry. And just state your name and address, please.
My first name is Robert, my last name is Andrew. My address is 4 Billis Way. And I'm going to apologize, I forget your name again now.
Rebecca.
Back. Do you mind if I stay standing? I have a little bit of a back issue.
Of course. Yep.
All right. My issue, and that of my wife, is not that I object to a road. Certainly, we would need a road. Most of what Rebecca has cited, I would agree with. My issue isn't the width of the road. My issue is from the curb to 10 feet was not what was represented to me by the builder, nor to my wife. If the property taking is an additional 10 feet, that's 25% of my front lawn. As Rebecca said, and respectfully to the town, the reason that they would be looking to take is if in the future something needs to be done. My concern would be this: the width of the road is the width of the road. There are certainly utilities, most likely sewer, undoubtedly electric, since we have an electric box and a light on our front lawn, that would need to be maintained. But they're all within 5 feet. A 10-foot taking on my side substantially limits my front lawn. That's not what was represented to us. I am not here against an eminent domain taking, other than the 10-foot section of my front lawn. Certainly, in, I don't want to say developments, but in areas of many towns, there is always a granted easement after the fact. This is not after the fact. This was a plan that was submitted. The plan was submitted, however we'd like to phrase it, incorrectly by the builder. He did not write the deeds correctly. He did not represent to my wife and I don't know about other people, what was actually part of the road system and what was not. I have no objection to using an eminent domain taking to satisfy the roadway in even a certain portion, but not to the 10 feet. An eminent domain taking is not the acceptance of a project by the town that would go over without bumps and hurdles or future conflict. An eminent domain taking is the taking of private property, whether deeded incorrectly or not, against the will of certain people. The objective of Rebecca on behalf of Groveland could be satisfied with the taking of the road and a certain amount of feet, but not 10. You could certainly do it within 5. I paced it off. I did not go out last night before the meeting in the rain and measure to where the electricals ended, how far up. 10 feet, as Ms. Rebecca stated, would give the towns a lot of options, which could mean the next administration could park a dump truck in my front lawn, and it would be town property. 5 feet would prohibit that. They'd have to park it on the street. That's the objection. Not to interfere with the eminent domain taking, not to interfere with what she's trying to accomplish on behalf of Groveland. But a 10-foot taking, a 10-foot taking could be revised to make it a 5-foot taking. And it would not affect the roadway, the electricals, or any other utilities. A 10-foot taking, in effect, will bring conflict that I certainly don't want, and I'm sure the town doesn't want. All I'm looking to do is say, I understand the position. She presented very well last night. She presented very well again, and I'm not objecting to the eminent domain taking, just the amount to be taken. I don't think the revision of making it 5 foot on either side would interfere with what the planning board of Groveland is trying to do. As you just heard, there were no plans to do anything additional. It was the taking of property in the case of in a future administration. The future administration, or however we say it, would still be open to another eminent domain taking if they need it in the future. But they don't need to take 25% of the front lawn to satisfy a non-existent public need, which is what would have to be satisfied under an eminent domain taking. A public need for 10 feet off of the cut roadway. A public need for an additional 5 feet from where the utilities already land. Eminent domain needs a public need. 10 feet will not meet that standard. I'm not against the eminent domain. I'm not against my neighbors having a road and trash pickup. But 10 feet is not a public need. 10 feet, as Rebecca just said, is a just in case. So I would ask the planning board, I would not object to the taking, I would object to the 10 feet. Make it 5 feet. That's what I would object to. That's all we ask.
But for,
Thank you.
for
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
clarification, I didn't say that it's for future need. It's based upon the memo that TEC provided, which is standard design standards for roadways that are accepted in Groveland. The as-built provided by the developer was paid for by the developer, provided by the developer. The meets and bounds of the roadway are in the property itself, confirmed by TEC, by the engineer that marked out the lot in comparison to the roadway. The process of going back and altering an approved roadway design to exclude certain property is not something that can be accomplished very easily and without seeking waivers from the subdivision rules and regulations and things of that nature. It would alter substantially the design, which is the intent of having TEC provide the memo to speak to the subdivision rules and regulations that you approve the roadway on. Whether there's something that we can do in the future, we can obviously continue to discuss that. But in terms of the street getting accepted at town meeting, we don't have much time to go back and alter the design and approval of a subdivision road. The road was approved on that design standard. So that being said, we could potentially wait, but that would mean that we do not provide trash services, we do not spend taxpayer dollars on that roadway, and the owners of the property, being every landowner on Billis Way, would be responsible for providing such, because we legally cannot spend taxpayer dollars on plowing and roadway maintenance, and the allowance for trash pickup was only for the year, with the understanding it would go through the street acceptance process. So there would need to be an excessive amount of due diligence to figure out exactly how we could alter the metes and bounds of a roadway that was approved per the planning board, and then alter it to exclude a certain amount of square footage from such in order to satisfy the homeowner's desire. So it becomes a little bit more of a complex situation, rather than just saying, we'll just subtract 5 feet. We won't take the full 10.
I understand exactly what you're saying, and I think you make a really good point. As a lesser method, is it possible to seek recommendation from town council about how the eminent domain issue might play out, so we would have a better understanding of potential risk and things like that, depending on how things go forward? I mean, I don't know how long it would take to get such an opinion, but I can't imagine it would take a long time.
We did consult town council on the matter, and they said it would be in the best interest of the property owners to relinquish their rights in the roadway so that they can have the town maintain the roadway.
I think it's also important to point out that the square footage that's listed on the deed is a square footage up to that 10 foot, then the road. That 10 foot is not part of the square footage that's on the deed.
Oh, it's not included in
No.
the described area of the
The
deed?
described deed does go from that point to the center of the road that they have a right to, because that's what they would have a right, because they have to maintain that
Sure.
if it's a private way.
If I may, and I know this isn't a give and take, but if I may,
DJ, I would say yes.
would you mind?
Yeah.
I don't want to break
No, it's all good.
this gentleman, and I don't have my glasses, so I apologize, sir.
Jason?
Jason, I don't think he's incorrect at all. And to some extent, I don't think Rebecca's incorrect at all. But it is not as big a problem as it is being made out to be. I do this for a living. It's not that big of an issue. It is not as simple as taking an eraser and changing a number, but it is not that complicated to get it done. The roadway has been accepted in planning. The roadway is in. The utilities are in on the side of it, on my side, and on the other side, it has a sidewalk. The roadway is completed. There would be nothing that changes on that roadway or the sides of the streets, whether you accept it as is or minus 5 feet. It would take a little bit to, for lack of a better term, redo, I guess, the proposal that may have to be put forward before the town. But changing, or not changing, fixing the problem that exists, and I would suggest it may well be because the builders did not do the deeds correctly, but fixing the problem as it exists now by the taking pursuant to eminent domain is not the same as acceptance of a street after a builder has completed. There's a different standard. There's a different legal standard.
Wouldn't you have recourse against the builder, and wouldn't that be
I would
where?
have recourse against the builder as well as the town, yes. I don't want recourse against the town. I grew up in a political town, so did my wife. We came to Groveland. I do not want this. I won't shy away from it, but I don't want it. The town is run well. I've never met this young lady before, but if she's the one that's making a lot of the decisions, I enjoy Groveland, and I enjoy being nothing more than an unknown citizen here. Well, what was represented to us is different than what she is representing.
Well, the town didn't make representations to you about any of
The
this.
town did not. But my deed is what my deed was. Being aware of how this works, I knew exactly what the deed said.
And just
So
for
you knew it was 10 feet from the road, from the curb?
I didn't say the plan, sir. I said the deed.
Yeah, the deed. You're only entitled to how many square foot?
I know what my deed said, sir. I'm not looking to get into a jousting match with you here. I was well aware of what my deed said.
Well, I don't think you are, because what you're representing now is not what the deed said.
We're talking about the difference between the deed and the plans. So what I'm asking, sir, again, without trying to get into conflict, is I have no issue with the eminent domain taking to solve a problem that was not created by Groveland. I have the issue with the taking of the 10 feet that was not represented to me and through the deed that I received.
Is the error a scrivener's error, or is it more substantive than that?
So the deed specifically calls out that they reference the plan that was approved by the subdivision. So they reference that a certain parcel of land in Groveland, Essex County, Massachusetts, and they go through the subdivision plan, applicant, owner, et cetera, as recorded at the Southern Essex Registry of Deeds in Plan Book 466, Plan 23, containing 31,443 square feet, and more particularly described as shown on said plan. Then is subject to conditions and restrictions referred to on said plan, which is the decision that was approved by the planning board, which is on the last page of the plan. And then it says, also meaning and intending to convey all right, title, and interest of the grantor in and to the way shown as Billis Way on said plan, subject to the rights of others in said way. That is the statement that causes the issue when it comes to accepting the roadway as we typically accept roadways. I mean, for us, it's a struggle too, because, right, the developer is the one who purchased the property, mortgaged and sold each individual lot, profited from the development, and now doesn't seem to be part of this conversation at all.
Well, wait a minute.
And-
The roadway doesn't seem to be disputed. That portion, I mean, the opponent is saying, I don't have a problem with giving up the roadway. He's talking about,
Roadway is 50 foot wide.
so
If it's
include,
50 foot wide, that includes that 10 foot on either side.
And that's why it references
So he
the
does
plan.
dispute the roadway.
no, I get it, okay.
So
Right.
for us, it's the developer is not here for the conversation. The developer is the one who would more aptly want to have the roadway accepted so that they can relieve themselves of the responsibility and present themselves to those that he's selling and mortgaging those lots to, that they will have an accepted roadway. But the onus for the acceptance is on the applicant. The onus for acceptance is on the property owners. So if, in fact, the property owners do not collectively want us to accept the roadway, the town has no obligation to accept this roadway or invest any legal fees and/or additional monies and/or additional staff time trying to get the roadway accepted. The issue is that we were trying to be helpful because of an issue that we saw that other property owners came to us saying, well, we want our trash pickup. We don't want to go down here. We don't want to do that. And to the gentleman's point, it has nothing to do with the services. He wants the services, but the issue is that the onus and the responsibility and the due diligence legally is not on the town to accept this roadway. So it is on the developer, who is, again, not in this room. And it is on the property owners who own the rights to the roadway. So if there's a legal battle to be picked, if that's what obviously nobody wants, it's with the developer. The town doesn't need to do this. We have plenty of other issues before us this evening that impact the town as a whole.
Sure.
So it's kind of, for us, frustrating because we want to be accommodating to the resident, but we, as is stated many a times, did not create this issue. The planning board was the body that approved the plan, understood the plan, approved the road to the subdivision rules and regulations, so now.
When was the plan approved by the planning board?
This one was approved in
2018, June 21st?
Yeah, the preliminary, 2018.
So, and just to confirm a couple things here, just as you keep going. One, I understand you're saying you have no issues with the services?
Yeah, just before that, I apologize, but could I just make one point, and then I'll gladly answer any question?
All right, actually, before you do, I feel like we need to clear up a couple
Yes,
things.
sir.
But you understand that if the roadway is not accepted, you and all your neighbors will get no services. Yeah,
I do
it
understand
will
that,
not be
sir.
on the warrant for town meeting, you will not get trash pickup, you will not get anything, and nothing will be extended to that, as it has been for the last year.
I-
And also, I understand you keep saying the phrase eminent domain, and I'm assuming you're saying that very intentionally. This is not an eminent domain claim.
Actually,
It-
it's
it-
exactly an eminent
It's a
domain.
taking,
Yeah.
because they own the rights to the property, and because, like the gentleman said, the developer originally approached the homeowners saying that he would alter the deed so that the deeds could be reflected correctly, so that he could follow the process, in which case they would just give us the roadway as part of the standard acceptance process. But by doing so, that means that each individual homeowner would also need to get sign off from their lender, because their lender and mortgage company, they also own the rights to that road through their borrowing. So many people don't have TD Bank down the street, you know, trying to get in touch with their lenders, trying to get the sign off, going through the whole procedure was a little bit just more cumbersome. So the developer said, well, I don't want to do any of that, so why don't we just go forward? And we said, well, we could do a taking. So we said that would allow us to take the roadway, and we have rights to take the roadway to service the benefit of the good of those living on the road. And that the town had intended to accept the roadway had it been done correctly. Again,
And-
bearing no responsibility to do so.
And to take the road in the manner in which it is normally, the roads are normally done in Groveland, not making this some wonky design thing that is out of joint with the other roads in Groveland.
Exactly. So it is an eminent domain taking because of the mechanism that we need to go through in order to legally take it, unless each individual homeowner would like to deed their property willingly back to the developer, who would then be able to provide us the deed and rights, to convey us the rights in the roadway.
And town council is comfortable with the concept of taking it in this manner?
They were, again, we were trying to, no good deed goes unpunished, trying to be helpful to
Right.
the residents who thought it
Okay.
felt as though it was a little bit more challenging to get the sign-offs and go through that process that way. And also knowing that the developer hasn't always been very responsive
Understood.
to the board or the town in general, we just wanted to help, and town council said this would be the way that you could do that. So that is why we went through this process the way that we did.
Would it be appropriate to get a
Apologies, I think-
further opinion from town council as to if the risk in proceeding in this matter?
But that's the thing, the decision is that we don't, there could be legal action
Sure.
taken against the town for trying to take the roadway, as there's with any eminent domain in terms of that process.
Right, but when you seek, advice from council, you're seeking an analysis of the risk and getting a read from them to advise you, okay, this is an acceptable risk versus this maybe is not.
Not necessarily, I mean, they're there to represent whatever position the town is willing to take, as is with any attorney.
Well, and just like
And people
TEC,
would be-
they're also here to advise us.
Exactly, but town council is not used to advocate on the behalf of a developer who has a financial interest and/or property owners have a financial interest in property.
Well, that's not what I'm suggesting. What I'm suggesting is, the town getting advice from their council to say, okay, what is the level of risk here if there is an action against us based on this proposed taking?
But any level of risk that is assumed by this is less than the risk of just not doing anything, because we legally have no, that's the better of the
Well,
options. You could do nothing.
So I
You
mean.
have no risk.
So-
You
so-
don't get any
so-
legal.
Right, so given the
No.
timing to do everything in time for.
Town meeting.
To get the warrant prep for town meeting, the choices are really either voted in the way it's written now, or the street doesn't get anything. Right, that's, to boil it down,
For a year.
that's kind of what we're looking at, right? Until we can get it on the next town warrant.
If I may, sir, and I apologize, but I wanted to try
Yeah.
to make a point.
Yeah.
There's an additional factor that raised a concern with both my wife and I. The builder, and Ms. Rebecca is correct, is not always the most easy to deal with.
Sure.
He was bonded, and he was also obligated to plow and maintain that road until accepted by the town. The town waived that bond. That's why we're in this position now. The
That's-
town
Like
did not
Rebecca
waive
said
the bond.
at last time's
Sir,
meeting.
I wasn't done, sir. Please. Just a little respect. I wasn't done.
Go ahead, finish.
Would you like to talk now? And I can gladly pick up again. It seemed very important to you.
Well, yeah, it was very important to me because,
Okay.
like Rebecca said at the meeting last night, the builder was not bonded for plowing the road.
Finish.
Builder was bonded for maintenance of that road. Your colleague can say that maintenance didn't include plowing. I would suggest to you it did. But we're not here for that right now. What I was trying to suggest is that the builder was bonded, and he was bonded to maintain that road until accepted by the town. That bond got waived. That's why we're in this position where it needs to be done by an eminent domain taking. Because if it had not got waived, the builder would have been responsible, and this would have got settled other than an eminent domain taking. So we're in this position because the builder was released.
So
That's
that,
why.
Thank you.
is-
Go ahead, Rebecca.
so that's not entirely true, because on the definitive subdivision plan that was referenced in the deed and accepted by the planning board, and in the decision accepted by the planning board, condition number 21 says, vital access must be maintained at all times and is the sole responsibility of the owner, applicant, and developer. This access includes plowing, sanding, et cetera, et cetera. That would mean that once the lots were mortgaged and sold, the owner is no longer the developer, and the owner is the actual mortgage holder and property owner of each individual lot. Therefore, relinquishing all of his rights, which he did, to the individual property owners, and now they own the roadway. And per the planning board subdivision rules and regulations and the decision approved by the planning board, they must maintain vital access, which means that if they did not plow their roadway and there was an emergency, that we wouldn't be able to have our fire trucks get down there to help somebody. So those owners have a vested responsibility in maintaining vital access on the roadway, which is the owner, applicant, or developer, whoever it may be at that point in time. The bonds we put forward and the bonds referenced in this decision reference solely the construction of the roadway. And at every point and every milestone of that subdivision, we have TEC out there to inspect and ensure that they have constructed per plan what they have put forward. And you reduce every time a certain portion of that bond based upon whether or not they put in the drainage, and if they put in the sidewalk, and if they put in the street trees, and if they put in everything that you approve per that plan. That is when the bond is released. We do not have a bond on the developer.
Have we, and you kind of alluded to it, where we've heard from some of the other owners in this area about what they would like?
So there was another gentleman who attended the planning board, the select board meeting last evening who mentioned he would hope that his neighbors got what they needed, but he just wants to make sure that he gets plowing and trash. And we had another neighbor who had reached out to us at the last meeting who was very upset, and we had a group of neighbors show up when we didn't accept the roadway last year, and they were, again, upset that they weren't gonna get trash services, so they came and they petitioned the select board to allow them for another year of services before they were cut off, so that they could go through the process of getting the roadway accepted. And that was not just one or two, that was a majority, I would say.
And I'll end in a minute. I am not here to make this adversarial. I understand everything that Rebecca has stated. I don't agree with some of it, but I would suggest at least 80% of it, I do agree with. I'm not here fighting against the fixing of the problem created by the builder, by a creative solution that Rebecca came up with. I'm assuming it was Rebecca's. I'm not fighting against that. I'm certainly not fighting against my neighbors to lose trash pickup. What I'm suggesting is this, under the suggestion that was just made, that if the homeowners would have to maintain the road in the winter so a fire truck could get down in case of need, the same road could be used to pick up trash, whether it was accepted or not. We don't need to create a scenario. I'm not looking for an adversarial scenario created by any party to suggest that it is imperative that it has to be exactly this way.
Well, logistically, a reworking of the subdivision plan and all this stuff would put us past town meeting, and then you'd be just kind of de facto stuck with a year not having services until the next meeting.
And I would agree with you, sir, but this isn't a reworking of the plan. This is in fact a taking under the eminent domain laws. It's different. This is not acceptance. What the town is trying to do is not accept a property pursuant to a plan that was submitted. The town is taking a property. There's a difference.
But in order to make the change of how you would like to drop it from 10 to 5 feet, and I get that's the main concern there, is just try to, the plan would need to be would need to be addressed, resubmitted. We would have to be a lot of changes prior to our annual meeting. So my thought is, we really, and I'm thinking as we go through all of this, what we have for options, right? So our options are, if we not recommend this and send it right back to a private way, and the owners would then have to go deal with all of this individually, and we would have no responsibility on it, and your neighbors now would have no plowing, no trash, as we know.
And the mailbox would have to be put at the end of the street.
And again, the mailboxes have been at the house for at least the 4 years I've been there. It sounds like it's a time to create a problem in order to enact a solution.
What-
Mail has been delivered to the houses on that street for the 4 years I've been there.
But we're limited to what we can do. So
Okay.
that's, just so you know that, the planning board is limited to what we can, and then it
Your
goes.
colleague is suggesting that the federal government would no longer be able to drive down a private way, and the mailboxes would have to move. That's not true. That's not true at all.
I think temporarily and permanent would be a different situation, but
I'm not suggesting, sir, and I'm not suggesting to any of you, that I'm looking to hurt my neighbors and not allow Rebecca, on behalf of the town, to make this creative solution work.
Well, I mean, we're sitting like we're talking about a month to the town meeting.
Hey, he was talking.
No.
What about a little bit of respect?
stop. We're not doing that.
No, yeah,
I don't do that.
right. If I interrupt you, it's not out of disrespect, it's because I want to get a point across that may be helpful for both of us. I'm trying to understand what's going on. You're asking me and my colleagues to make a decision in a very short time with very little information, in a time where we're really tight on the town. This would be a different discussion if we're having it in October, right?
But I just got notice on the 11th of.
No, I'm not,
So,
We understand that.
and I just want to go back to.
Yeah, sure.
I would like to know, and Rebecca, from you, so we have, my thought is two options, right? One is to not recommend it from a planning board aspect, and then it's already on the warrant, is it going to be on the warrant?
No,
And then we
the-
could be not recommended, and then the select board will be not recommended, or whatever the case may be.
The select board is the one that would be putting it on the warrant because it was done through the town's process, not
Okay.
a petition of any sort.
Okay.
And so if you decided to not make a favorable recommendation upon referring it back to the select board could still approve the laying out of the way and move forward with a warrant article.
Yep.
But it would just say unfavorable. But that being said, I think there was hesitation from the select board during last evening's meeting, and therefore, they would probably default to the planning board as the entity that in fact, or, excuse me, as the body that approved the plan. That being said, they could then also not approve the laying out of the way and hold the warrant article until a future date.
Okay, so that's one option. And then the other option is we make the recommendation, we feel as though it's to the subdivision plans, we have done our due diligence, we send it off to select board, they make their determination, and then it goes for a vote in front of the town. Because ultimately, has to be approved by town at town meeting to vote it. And I would think that if, Mr. Andrew, if you went to your neighbors and said, and got a majority census from them, what do you guys want to do? Do we want to fight this? And if they do, they can show up and they can speak on behalf of that street, their own street, and say, we don't want this, please don't approve it. And then let the townspeople make that decision, instead of 4 people here and then 4 select board members, because we have to take into consideration everybody on the street. We've got 2 people who can understand where you're coming from, but do not want to lose any type of services. Is a concern
I
for
don't
them.
want to lose services either.
Correct. And we have to look at it as a decision for the whole. And this is just in my opinion. So I feel as though those are our, kind of our two options there, is to either not make a recommendation, make a recommendation, and then kind of leave it to the city to do so. Am I incorrect in saying that? I mean, is there more to it than that? I know that this is convoluted, it's difficult,
May I give
right?
just a third option, and then I would rest?
Sure.
And Mr. Chairman, you're looking at it as either accept it or do not accept it. There's nothing to say that because the process that the town is looking to go forward on is different than the normal process of accepting a road, deeds would have to be written, or a deed of the eminent domain taking would have to be submitted and approved. There's nothing to say that that deed certainly couldn't include language saying, if from this curb to 10 feet in, other than for the utilities, it shall not be used. The town could take it as an option.
Would that put us out of compliance with the subdivision bylaw?
The town would still own it, sir. Oh,
I'm-
sorry. I thought you were talking to me.
No, no,
I
I'm,
apologize.
so sorry.
So that would be a waiver of the subdivision rules and regulations in terms of the roadway that you had approved. I mean, regardless of the
Right.
taking aspect, I agree, a taking is much different. You're 100% correct. But we're only taking what we would if we did accept it as an acceptance process. We're
Right.
not trying to take any additional property. We're just trying to take the right-of-way, which includes the shoulder, which is the front yard area. Because if there's something that goes wrong in the roadway as well, we're not just going to just dig right in one spot. We're gonna need to move around, just as you would do a construction easement or a permanent easement of something of that nature. So it's not just as cut and dry when you talk about just that we, not because we want to put anything
No, I get
or
it.
put a trailer there, it's because in order to maintain a roadway effectively, we need to have access to the roadway. We don't pave the entire 50-foot roadway for a reason.
Could we do a portion of it by easement? Would that make a difference?
You could go
Substantively?
through that process, but you're not going to get it done before town
Right.
meeting.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the ultimate crux of it, and why we're saying that's only the two options that's before us right now.
Right.
If we were to not recommend favorable, and then the town either doesn't get on the warrant, or the town votes against adoption of Billis Way as a town road, the road just does not get services. There's no other option there. Then there would be an option for all the residents to get together, go through whatever process will be agreeable to everyone, submit the applications, get deeds adjusted, everything that would have to be done to that end. All that is going to take much longer than next month.
Yeah.
So your road would not get services. And this, I want to be very clear, there's no other option there.
Well, assuming you are 100% correct, sir, and I would
Right.
accept your
Yeah.
representation.
And I'm not saying that that's not the right way to go, if given your concerns. I'm just saying that from a town standpoint,
Yeah.
the town would not give services to Billis Way. And again, I'm not saying that is a right or wrong, I'm just saying that black and white, what would happen? Then, so it would be the choice to either accept the way it's written for adoption at town meeting, or not have an accepted roadway in the town, until it can be adjusted and what it would be adjusted, and then put back on the warrant for town meeting.
And who would be responsible for investing the monies for an engineer and an attorney
exactly.
to draft a new plan, draft a plan, survey a plan, and draft the legal language that
deeds.
would then need to go through a review process,
It
which
would-
is why the turnaround time is.
Exactly, and that would be all on the burden of that would be on the homeowners, and then you could work it out with the builder, whatever you want to do legally in that front. But initially, that burden would fall on the homeowners to foot the bill and make all the arrangements to have that done.
And remember the builder.
Yeah.
Well, and
I do know the builder.
But I want to
Yeah.
finish this up as well. I want you to be able to speak final words, and then we'll kind of just talk it through up here and figure out what we're going to do. Yeah, absolutely. So go ahead. I know that you probably have a response, so.
I understand it may not be within the purview of this board, but the 1 year, I come before the board, as did my wife yesterday at the selectmen's meeting, with a notice dated March 11th of an eminent domain taking. So I understand the time frame and how short it is. But certainly, if you look upon me, you'll understand, yesterday was the 18th. I had 7 days' notice. Now, I think it was mailed on Friday before that, the 3 days it took to get there. But we opened up mail and we had 7 days' notice. So I'm not waiting till the last minute. I was literally here as soon as I found out. It may not be within the purview of this board to negotiate with me, so to speak. I don't know if it's within the purview of this board to approve with a recommendation or to suggest that rather than make a homeowner on this street responsible for something on 7 days' notice, in fact, losing property that was deeded to him, that the agreement for 1 year be continued, or that so that possibly option one, and it may not be within this board. Or it could be that a restriction is put on the taking of the eminent domain. Now, normally, a restriction would not be put on the acceptance of a street, but this isn't the normal acceptance of a street. This is the taking by eminent domain. That deed can be written up with the language. It doesn't have to be pursuant to the plan. The plan may be what you, as a body, approved, and that may be 1, 2, 3. But when you go forward and take property by eminent domain, you're taking something regardless of what a plan says. You're taking property from individuals. That deed can reference the intention of the taking and the, shall we say, the reasons for the taking and the limitations of that taking. That could be done. I'm not saying, and I'm not suggesting, if, and I was to accept your representations, that we do not have time to redo a whole surveyor's map. And I certainly don't want my neighbors to lose services. But the suggestion that the taking by eminent domain could contain language limiting the town from parking a trailer on my front lawn. If Ms. Rebecca is correct, and I would disagree with some of what she said, but if the reason for the town is to take 10 feet because they may need to put a track or a building vehicle next to something that needs to be fixed, certainly there's a statute in Massachusetts, I can tell you from practice, that allows for that, whether it's private property or not. So that concern would be alleviated. But assuming I don't argue about that concern, the restriction prohibiting private cars parking there, or people being allowed to set up a picnic table on my front lawn would not be, I think, out of the question. If you're taking by eminent domain and it's not the acceptance of a road, it's different. All I'm asking is that if the town, if this body feels that's the only way left, this body can make a suggestion that restrictions be put on a certain portion of that property. I'm not looking for an adversarial process. I'm here as a town resident saying, this is what I learned literally 8 days ago. This is my concern. I'm offering several suggestions as to how my concern would be alleviated, and I would hope my neighbors don't suffer by it. That's all I'm asking.
Understood.
Okay,
Appreciate it. Thank you.
I appreciate your time.
thank you.
Thank you.
And I would like to clarify one aspect on notice requirements. So yes, we did notice the taking of the process per eminent domain standards. That being said, on April 30th, 2024, when the select board decided that they would extend the services to the residents, it was clearly described to the residents that there was an update on the accepted roadway status for Billis Way, and we called out the deed, and we called out that unfortunately, because the rights and interests of the roadway were not granted to, were granted to the lot owners, the developer has no legal authority to convey the roadway to the town. Therefore, the process that the town followed assumed the developers held rights and interest to the roadway, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, detailing what happened, and then states that the town council is working with the town on the proper process and anticipated acceptance at the next town meeting in 2025, unless a special town meeting is held in the fall. So after everything that happened with the properties back in the 2024 town meeting, we have been in communication with the residents. This letter was dropped off at each individual mailbox, hand-delivered, to, again, let the owners know that we were trying to work with them, that we understand the situation, and that the developer would continue to take care of the roadway and the drainage as he agreed for the year, and we would take care of the trash for the year until April 2025. So that was communicated. The eminent domain taking, the gentleman is correct, that was done, but per the law, and that's not a lot of time. But the process of trying to get it accepted, et cetera, was communicated with the residents in 2024 and back in 2023 when we were trying to gather all of the information.
Yep. Okay, thank you.
Is there anything else I could answer for you?
No, I think you've,
Okay.
wait, I appreciate you coming in and.
Yep.
here,
I
you know,
appreciate your time.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate your time.
Okay, so, you guys have any additional thoughts of, our options are, we can either recommend favorable or not, recommend unfavorable.
I think
Those
you're
are
right.
our- Those are our, basically our two options.
Right.
Right, any further doings and decisions have to come from the select board anyway.
Right.
Jason? There's nothing that, under our jurisdiction that
Yeah, I don't
we
think
say,
we-
hey, we don't, and you're on the select board, so you've heard everything tonight, which is good, right? And as well, you heard it last night, I'm sure as well. So, Rebecca, is there anything else we are missing that we need to factor in? Our options are recommend favorable, unfavorable, and.
With the laying out of the way, correct. And you have in your packet believe either this packet or the last packet. You had the warrant article draft, you had the as-built, you had the peer review from TEC on the as-built, and all of that final information as well.
You guys have anything else?
Well, it sounds like, to me, it sounds like you've got people in the subdivision that have different opinions about how it should go and what we should do. And, I think, what is to me somewhat of an esoteric discussion about, okay, 5 feet versus 10 feet. Nobody's, putting some massive edifice on that other 5 feet, in any time in the future that we know of or contemplate. So this seems to be a little bit of an esoteric fight. And people in the same subdivision are going to lose real things that are going to cost them real money right away if we don't act. And, so I think our job is to think about all the people on the street, not just, one or more, or a couple. And I think, the whole point of an eminent domain taking is to, provide for the good of these, the people, right? Not just one. And I think we have, our engineering says that jives with what we're supposed to do under the subdivision plan. And so, I think for those reasons, I think I would recommend in favor, unless somebody had some thoughts that would change my mind.
So and obviously the eminent domain factor is something that we had to come up with separately, Rebecca, because of the situation that we were in, right? This isn't our normal situation that we would have to do. So
Correct.
we had to do that to adjust for that full year of not being done.
Correct.
Is it the same footage, square footage on everybody that is on, is it the one side, or the other side doesn't factor in because if it's the sidewalks there, and that is more of a cut and dry, but anyone that doesn't, with the driveway, the sidewalk stops, is it 10 feet for everybody, or is it just for this one
I'd have to take a closer look
Okay.
at how the roadway is situated. I don't know, Pete, if you took a look at that when you,
Yeah. Generally, I think you spoke about it accurately. I would say all the houses, as you're pulling onto Billis Way on the left side, have a pretty consistent 10-foot wide strip along that whole side. And then on the other side of the road, like you said, the sidewalk is there. That's probably 5 or 6 feet from the curb, and then there would be like a 4 or 5 foot grass strip within the right-of-way on the other side
Okay.
of the street.
So it's uniform throughout, it's no different for any one
Right.
parcel than the other?
Right, this is one side just has the sidewalk, so it's less
Right, right.
actual lawn.
Right. Yeah, I mean, the situation that we get to know from the beginning, we weren't, I don't know if you were on, I wasn't on the board when Billis was being, but.
Exactly,
What's that?
exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I tend to agree. Yeah, I mean, I think in my opinion, the best interest of the entire street would be to have it accepted as to not impact services to said street.
And I mean, this came up as a petition by members of the street,
Right.
and we think a majority. And we think that the aggrieved homeowner has at least some recourse against, or the potential for some recourse against the builder for not doing what he was supposed to, or maybe making promises that he didn't keep,
Right.
whatever.
I
There
mean,
there may be, that, you know, he might not be out of luck as it is.
Right, I would tend to agree. I mean, obviously, having, no legal expertise myself.
Sure.
But I would tend to agree that I would think that there would be some recourse, Dan, if deeds were not properly conveyed in their proper way, right? I would have hoped that there would have been checks and balances on that from during the purchase process, but again, that's certainly not my area of expertise by any stretch. But again, in my opinion, I think having the roadway accepted by the town and providing services to everyone on the street is in my opinion, in the best interest of the residents on that street. In the long term, as far as our actions tonight.
yeah.
That's just
And
my opinion. But-
And I agree. I wish, I know there's nothing that we can do here in the planning board. As the select board comes through, and if I don't know whether there could be recommendations on language and changes to things, things like that. I think it's very unlikely that there's going to be any future change of those parcels. I mean, it's a dead-end street. It's not, I can't see anything like that happening. But if any of us lived on that property, you want to know what's going on your property. I want to know.
I
right?
would agree with
It's-
that, absolutely.
That's what you need to do when you're purchasing. So, I mean, yeah, I agree. I mean, I just hope that, Jason's here from the select board. They can, I don't know, and they can work with Rebecca. I don't know if there's anything else further than that, or after there is a recommendation on both sides, and then it goes to town meeting, and then there's the vote, and I don't know. Haven't been here long enough to be able to determine that, but as far as the planning board, I agree with you too, that is our responsibility per the subdivision rules and regulations, but I think there's obviously more conversation to go from here, and how, I don't know, right? But I know Rebecca and Annie are very good at what they do, and they will help out however they can, so.
And we're not opposed to trying to put something together. The issue
Yep.
legally is, again, even if the select board wants to approve providing trash services for the next year,
Right.
there is no guarantee that the developer will continue to plow and maintain that roadway for another year while we get that squared away. And that is under Massachusetts general law. We do not have the ability to put plow trucks or use Chapter 90 funds or anything of that nature on that roadway until we own it. And so that's not a guarantee that we can make, which puts us in an even more difficult situation due to the time constraints.
And it doesn't help the developer isn't here to be able to speak on behalf of anything either, right? Because it originally came down from there, right, of being from developer to now homeowner, so.
I'd be interested to hear what Jason has to say.
Well, it's definitely something I would like to see for all of the residents. I definitely don't want to put the town in any position where we could end up with unnecessary legal fees.
Sure.
With that being said, there's no value that's been placed on the land because of the square footage, because of the markers. That land he has a right to it because he has to maintain it as long as it's a private way. There's no assessed value. It's not part of the taxes. So I don't know what type of recourse, because typically with eminent domain takings, it's done based on value. And I don't see any value on that land because
And there
of
would
that.
be no exclusive use to that chunk of land, right? Is that what you would be
And that was something that was talked about with town council, is that the intended use of the property was as a public way. So the value of the property has not been diminished or devalued or is no longer in use. It's just changing.
Because even though the deed says you can have it, doesn't say you can have it exclusively to the exclusion of other owners on the street. Got it.
Anything else?
Nope.
Anyone want to entertain a motion? Entertain a
Yeah.
motion to recommend in favorable to Billis Way roadway acceptance?
I'll make a motion to recommend a favorable decision on the roadway acceptance for Billis Way.
I'll second that motion.
Motion made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So moved. All right. Good luck, Mr. Andrew.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Pete.
Thanks, Pete.
Thank you.
You too. Nice seeing you. Okay.
So much for a quick meeting, huh?
Yeah. Quick meeting.
Yeah, they just want to go right to zoning. You guys are here as well, so after that, nobody else will be here.
Yeah.
Esteemed company, notwithstanding.
Pat gave me $100 before the meeting to say, can you speed this one up a little bit tonight? I got-
Not do
I got
such
friends
thing.
moving.
So you're saying you want us to talk quick?
No, I don't.
No.
I'm joking. I'm
No, this
completely
is,
joking.
this is the issue I'd expected would take a while. Awesome.
Hi, Emily.
Hello?
How are you?
I'm fine.
Do you have a microphone over there? Is there a
Do
microphone?
you want me to bring you this one?
You want to take the handheld one? If,
All right, Rebecca's going to bring this one. So for the record, while Supriya is getting the microphone, Emily Ennis of Ennis Associates, with my colleague Supriya Kelkar, also of Ennis Associates. We have a presentation for you tonight on 3A, and I think there's some outstanding issues that we want to clarify with you all. So with that, Supriya,
You just took over my 2 slides.
I'm sorry. That's the only reason you brought me was to do the two
On to slide 3.
She had one thing.
Okay, so good evening, everyone. A lot of what I'm going to say is going to be a little bit repetitive from last time, but we just want to make sure that you had a chance to review the zoning text as well as we talk about the sites, and then we also have Emily to answer any questions between the both of us. So I'm just going to go over the MFOD zoning text, hopefully quickly enough. So again, this is our second public hearing in March for the MFOD zoning text and Section 3A. So what the zoning text does is it establishes the multifamily overlay district as an overlay district. The description of the boundary lines would be added in after we have actually picked the district. And then everything in the MFOD district would be new text. It would be under purpose, establishment, applicability, definitions, up till site plan review. I'll go through every section so we get a chance to review and talk about it. So again, the purpose of this district is to allow multifamily housing as of right, which is a requirement of Section 3A, because nowhere in the town of Groveland right now is multifamily allowed by right. So this district just establishes that. The MFOD is an overlay district. It will be superimposed on the underlying base districts. This district will only trigger if a use of this district is basically put in use. Otherwise, all the base districts can also be, all the base districts would be in full force of use. We have added certain definitions that come with this district, so affordable unit and housing and applicant and the types of multifamily housing. Again, these types would be determined after we have picked the district of what exactly would be included in the district. So again, duplex, townhomes, triplex, single-family conversions, and what would be the minimum lot size required for these types of houses. Then again, 4 to 7 unit building, which would be a medium building, and then 8 to 10 unit building and cottage housing. Then we have dimensional standards. Again, a lot of this is to be determined, depends upon the geographical area picked. Setbacks, height, lot coverage, impervious areas are from the existing R2, R3 districts, so nothing new has been introduced. And the frontage and the maximum dwelling per unit acre, once the area is picked, would need to be confirmed by the Section 3A model if it actually makes the district compliant, and then the changes would be done. There are certain implications of this district that these are the relationships to the existing zoning, so there would be certain things that don't apply to this district or would be changed. So just listed them down, but they are detailed out in the text. And then it also introduces design guidelines under the site plan review and also additional development standards for anything taking place under the MFOD. We have also included an affordability requirement section. This requirement only triggers if the development is proposed for 10 or more units. The inclusion of this section is optional, but if the section is included, the conditions would apply. So the conditions of the section are not optional, but the section in itself to be included in the zoning is optional. And then the site plan review. Site plan review triggers if any project proposes 4 or more dwelling units. Currently in Groveland, the site plan review authority is you all. I assume that would be the case, so we can change terminology in the zoning text accordingly. And now any questions on the text? Okay. Then optional sites, we went through 5 sites last time. Again, the condition for Section 3A compliance is that you need to reach a minimum of 130 units and a 15 dwelling units per acre density. So the only variance in this sites is the acreage. We went through Washington and Main Street, which already has some 2-family houses. This is a 20-acre site. The lot area would need to be adjusted to 20,000 square foot, a drop from the existing 30,000 square foot, which is an R2 requirement, and multifamily units would be needed to be required by right. And the lot size is adjusted to also make the site be conforming. Sorry. So the existing residential units on this site is 21. The maximum calculated residential units allowed would be 294 by the 3A model. The existing residential density is one dwelling unit per acre, and the calculated by the model would be 18 dwelling units per acre. The housing types that would suit the lot size allowed would be 8 to 10 units apartment buildings or townhomes or cottage housing. The second option was, I'm going to just refresh through the sites, and then we can discuss. So the second one was Union to Garden. It was a 12-acre site. The lot size would need to be dropped down to 10,000, and multifamily would be needed to be allowed by right. Again, lot size is taken by conformity. So the existing residential units are 35 in this area. The calculated residential units would jump to 182. Again, these do not need to be constructed. This is just a capacity of the site. The current residential density is 3, and the maximum density allowed would be 15 dwelling units per acre, which is the minimum required by the 3A zoning. Again, these are the housing types that would suit this area. The third one was Salem Street. This is a 10-acre site. The lot size would need to be dropped down from 30,000 to 10,000, and again, multifamily allowed by right. The current existing residential units on this area is 17. The maximum calculated residential units would be 150. Density is 2 dwelling units per acre. It would be 18 dwelling units per acre. And the housing types range from 4 to 7 units to single-family conversions, cottage housing, and townhomes. The fourth one is a school in Pleasant Street. We are dropping down in acres. Now, this is a 8-acre site. The lot size would need to be dropped down from 20,000 square foot to 5. Their current existing residential units is 21. Maximum calculated density units would be 151. Current density is 3 dwelling units. It would go to 23. Again, the smaller the size, the higher the density. Again, a whole range of units, because it's a 5,000 lot area. We go from 4 to 7 units to duplex, cottage housing, triplex, and single family conversions. The last one is Perry Park, the lowest acreage, which is 6 acres. Again, the lot size drops down from 30,000 square foot to 5. This is quite a big drop from, as the acreage is dropping, the lot size is also going lower. Existing residential units currently on the site are 23. The model calculates residential units required 140. Current existing density is 4 dwelling units per acre, and the density this model will allow is 24. Again, a whole range of housing types. I think we discussed this slide quite a lot last time, but I'm just going to hold on this. But what we provided more for all of these sites is the number of parcels, the total acreages, what is the percentage excluded land, what is the total sensitive land, and how does the lot size reduction deal with the conformities. I'm just going to hold on that if anyone has.
I like this slide, thank you.
Okay.
It was very helpful, I don't know if you guys, but as you start looking at numbers, did you want to keep, do you have any more, or we want discussion? You good? Cool.
Thank you very much.
Did you have anything that you wanted?
No, I'm
You
here
good?
to answer any questions
Okay.
that you may have.
Awesome.
Hope to answer any questions you may have.
How long you got?
Yeah, so this slide was part of my, it appeased my ask, was to really look at the 5 locations and how many of the parcels were conforming with what the proposed lot size would be. So currently, we have, our zoning goes for either 30,000 square foot or 20,000 square foot. Our current zoning existing, the proposed overlay would drop it anywhere between 5,000 and 20,000 square foot. Looking at the percentage of the current parcels that are on these sites, we have, for me, jumped out. When you look at School and Pleasant Street, say the top 3, right? We have Perry Park, Salem Street, and School and Pleasant. You have 95, 94, and 90% of the parcels already meet that lot size square footage. So there really isn't much change there to the square footage. It's just now be able to add a 3-family unit or whatever would fit in there. At first I was thinking whatever was the highest percentage would probably be my go-to. And then looking at it, I think it was School and Pleasant. As I look at it, School and Pleasant, I like the idea. I'm thinking, okay, on the river, you put those multi-units homes on the river like there are on the other side, right? But you can't do that. When you look at the map, there is sensitive land there that they would not be able to be that right across the street on the river.
Right.
So that kind of knocked that down a little bit.
Well, then I think a lot of that is, I think there are some homes on that side, on the non-river side, that have deeded land all the way across
Yeah.
as well, so.
So, and even those on the other side are not, they're excluded, right? It's excluded land, they can't do anything with it. So, I liked Salem Street. Jason, you had a couple, I wanted to hear it again, but you had a couple rhyme and reason about the one-way, I think it was School and Pleasant, was it School and Pleasant? No, it was,
Perry Park?
Washington and Main Street, about being the one-way driving, the traffic's already kind of driven that way, because you want to take,
97.
yeah.
It still can come back on Gardner, because it does extend all the way down to Washington Street. So, but. Sorry.
Thank you, God.
So, yeah, it would help direct some of this traffic away from 97, which is an extremely busy and heavily traveled road. But since it does go all the way down to Washington, and people could come back to Gardner, to 97, more down Washington, which is not ideal either, because the Washington and Salem is also a treacherous place to be. But that's why I was a bigger fan of the Salem Street, just because some of the traffic would be going straight into Haverhill.
Yeah.
I thought I was a proponent of Salem Street as well, of the five. I thought Jason had made some good points last meeting about some things that made it more appealing. I agree that I like the conforming percentage that DJ just mentioned. It's very high. It's just a shade south of the highest one. It's a smallish acreage spot, not like Washington and Maine. So I think it's more palatable to the town when we have to put this forward at town meeting. For those reasons, I think I'd be in support of Salem Street as the overlay district.
Yeah, I would tend to agree. I mean, looking at, the most minimal impact possible to the town to make sure that we're in conformance of the state edict, Salem Street does seem to make sense. And again, just for the record, I say that as being, an almost direct abutter to that, because I live in my house, not far, the next street over from there. I will say, I think Perry Park is also on that list for me, because I think if I'm not mistaken, someone please correct me, that's on an MBTA line right now, on a bus line. So, am I remembering that correctly?
It is along the fixed bus route
Yeah.
for the MEVA Transit, which is Merrimack Valley
Thank you,
Regional
that's what I'm
Transit
thinking of, yeah.
Authority.
So there could be benefit there just to traffic 108 anyways, if it is on the bus line. But that said, I think either of those lots do well by minimizing total impact to the town. I agree with Patrick that Washington and Maine, it's a long stretch of
Yeah.
acreage that could be potentially, impacted there, so.
And we'll all put the caveat, so that everybody watching knows, setting out the overlay district does not say it's an endorsement by the planning board to build, or that these units need to be built to any of these capacities. It's just in order to comply with 3A, and it's just in order to, make sure that we're in compliance as we are required to be.
And it doesn't mean it's going through. That's supposed to be passed at town meeting. So
Exact-
this is just
exactly
us making a
so.
decision to be able to go to town meeting.
100%.
Yeah.
We have to make that, we are blessed with that determination of which parcel, which area we want to choose to be able to put forth.
But to Patrick's point, even if it does pass at town meeting, that's nothing, that doesn't mean that anything will ever be built as far as this goes, as far as the housing types that are there. We're just saying that we're allowing the zoning overlay to allow for it. It may never actually come to pass that anything like that is ever built on that land.
I will likely be repeating that
Yeah.
statement
Every
multiple
meeting.
times at town meeting when I go to talk about this, remind people that that's the case. One of the other things that I started looking at as well was the reduction in the lot sizes, right? You try not to reduce, still want to have that aesthetic for Groveland. It's Groveland, people come to Groveland, you want to have, and if you drop things down to a 5,000 square foot lot size, that's small.
Yeah.
And especially where most, I would say majority are 30,000 right now. I think typically are 30,000 minimum. Not in these specific zones, I mean throughout town.
Yeah.
Right? So to have that jump from 30 to 5 would be huge.
That's an ask.
It's a huge ask.
yeah.
So, ideally, you'd like to do 20, but Washington, Maine is the only one. There's a lot of restricted land there. I think it's a harder push, whereas that's where I ended up falling on Salem Street. And so that was kind of my,
Yeah.
Rhyme and reason behind it.
And I think in our favor there too, I mean, just as far as future ultimate buildability, there is that, protected area that's kind of right, off the corner there, so that's gonna, I don't want to say impede future building, but it limits I think it limits people's fears as for what can go there, because that's gonna be impacting what can ultimately go there anyways.
Yep.
So I think that plays in the favor of people who don't want to see that building, even if we do choose the overlay there.
Yep.
I don't know if I said that eloquently, but I'm pretty sure I didn't.
I know what
but-
you mean. So I don't think I have any other questions. I mean, that was really the main thing, is trying to figure out
Yeah.
which district we were going to choose. Yes.
I do have a couple things I'd like to say for the people at home. Originally, this was for Brad because he had brought up some questions.
Okay.
I know I've stated this before, but I found some other people that agree. This is from the Wilmington Select Board. Select Board member Gingrich, probably butchering that, but mentioned that the Milton case resulted in confirmation that the MBTA communities law is constitutional and can be enforced. So that's why they're bringing it back, want to bring it back. They're trying to bring it back. Also, Marcelli said, "We can fight this to the bitter end, but we're going to lose." And then probably the most important thing was from our auditor, Diana DiZoglio, because even though she gave a ruling of unfunded mandate, she said in the interview, having said that, the funding mechanism component does not mean communities do not have to comply with the law. And this is a law. It has been passed, and it will have impacts to Groveland if we don't comply.
And it's been deemed constitutional by the SJC.
Yes, oh, there was one other thing that somebody in Milton said, and it was about the fact that if they don't comply, that the state may request to come in and rezone it as they see fit, which may be to what they drew up, or it may be with a much broader brush of the stroke.
Yeah.
Right. So by selecting one, well, the most single ideal plot that we feel is most beneficial to the town to zone with this overlay is in the town's best interest.
It's in the town's best interest. I think it protects the land, it protects the town the best.
I agree. Okay. Sounds like we have no more discussion.
I do not.
I do not.
Good? Okay. Rebecca, do you have anything? No? Okay. Any final words?
I can just tell you, once you've made the formal decision, I can tell you the next steps.
Okay.
So, which is you choose the area, we'll go back and revise all the parts that Supriya called out as dependent on a district being chosen. So we'll fill in those, and then we'll send it back to you as the complete draft. We've also been talking with Rebecca about for town meeting, helping you all with a fact sheet or some other communication pre-town meeting that just lays out the what and the why and the wherefore, and then helping to prepare a presentation for town meeting. We can also be available for any technical questions that may come up, depending on your preference.
Awesome. Thank you.
We've done it a couple of different ways. Every community is different, but so some have us present and others have us just available for the technical questions. We're comfortable with either. It's really up to the community, but it is on my calendar.
That's awesome. Thank you for
Thank
that.
you.
So, yeah.
Thank you.
I guess one of the other things that they're on there is the optional, is it the affordable?
Yes.
Part of it that we need to make that decision on. So do you want to go back to that text language, please?
And I'll echo what Supriya said earlier, which is you can choose whether or not to have affordable housing on this. That is solely your choice. If you do choose to do it, there are certain requirements that you have to meet, which are embedded in the text that you already have in front of you. And as Supriya also said, once you put that in for the applicant, they have to, that part is not optional. Once it's in there, the applicant has to abide by it, and you have to have the correct restrictions in there, but it is optional as to whether or not you include it.
I'm going to reread it because I don't remember it all.
The basic is we have it at, just for people listening at home, 10 or more units is the threshold. And then it's 80% of AMI, 10% of the units.
And then there's the option of the developer paying a fee in lieu.
If you want to get even more complicated, yes, you can absolutely do the fee in lieu.
Well, I
yeah.
think that's essentially 100% of the time what the developers do. So to me, it seems like a very easy situation in that either we can be expecting to get fees in lieu, or we can expect not to get those fees in lieu in a situation where it would be better to have a bigger pie. Or on the off chance that some developer chooses the affordable housing, that would be good also. So either of the solutions is better for the town, in my opinion.
As I said, that's a local choice, so up to you is how do you do it?
Rebecca, what's town stance on whether this should be considered as optional or?
Given the discussions we had when we were discussing the comprehensive master plan and the housing production plan, the creation of affordable housing has been a goal of the community. And to Patrick's point, I think it makes a lot of sense in the sense that you can either collect the funds, all being 10 units or more, you can either collect the funds to add to your affordable housing goals and initiatives, or that person could actually produce the units, in which case you could count those units to your subsidized housing inventory. And anytime that we can do that, it obviously sets the town up for success in terms of defending off any unwanted development. And with the additional creation of housing units in Groveland, that only means that that 10% gets a little higher and then gets a little higher. So having those affordable units to count towards that growth, I think is a better practice. So I think that the reasoning provided makes a lot of sense, and it coincides again with the comprehensive master plan as well as the housing production plan.
Excellent, thank you. So are we in agreement, what's your feeling on that, the optional part of it? Because we have to make a decision on that one as well, whether we want to put that in there,
Yeah.
so.
I would
Any
move
feeling on
that
this?
we do.
We do.
Yeah, I agree 100%.
Yep.
So do we want to?
You don't have to follow suit, you can say, no, I disagree.
I mean, honestly, I have more of a problem with that, but I don't think enough to stop me for going forward, but.
I think the in lieu of payout, the history that we have with it.
Yeah, that's, I
is
mean,
almost always the
again, the
case, so we
logistics
make sure
of
that's in
how
there.
things
Yeah.
go on the ground is, this is more funding for affordable housing in Groveland versus we don't have that. And so if we can add to our pie for something that's a very worthwhile, and I think a lot of folks in Groveland are interested about it.
Potential in the future, yeah.
And that's
absolutely.
affordable housing that you choose to create.
Right,
Because you have
exactly.
control.
Right.
I agree. Okay, so,
I'll move to include in the language that we add the affordable housing provision as the option was.
with the included in lieu of
That,
payment.
that,
yeah.
that is included.
And that'll be part of your next
Yes,
assessment
exactly.
anyway. But we just need, and the most important thing is picking a district.
Yes.
And that was the language that was included in the original draft that was just kind of highlighted and
Yep.
said, contingent upon you wanting to include it. And it references our inclusionary bylaw, which we had some discussions with last time because we were like, wait, it excludes it, but yet it's following it. But that's been clarified as well. And then you had the additional language in regards to the site review, which we can discuss next.
Cool. Thank you. This is public hearing. We need to make a motion and everything else.
So just
Select-
clarification,
Move to
is it-
close the
is-
public hearing?
So did you voted on the affordable? Was there
No,
a,
there wasn't a vote.
We haven't had the vote yet,
So,
but we have to do
just a
that.
clarification, do we need two different motions?
so you don't need two different motions. You could do the affordable housing and the site plan, because you didn't,
They haven't done Salem, they haven't picked the district yet. either.
yes, you had three things that are outstanding. You can do them all in one motion, but all three of those things need to be addressed in a vote.
Do
and
we
then you
close the
can-
public hearing first before we do that?
You don't have to.
Okay.
It's up to you, though. I mean, if you'd like to, it just
should
kind
we?
of limits any discussion from the public, but I don't necessarily think,
Do they need to keep anything open for looking at the final text? Does this need to be continued? so
you
that-
could do that. I mean, you might as well keep it, I mean,
Yeah.
I think it makes sense to finalize those specific measures that we just talked about.
Then
Have in his associates redraft the language.
And
At your next meeting, you have it.
Answer questions on
But
the text.
Sure.
at the same time, knowing that
Makes sense.
because of the time constraints, that language is essentially the language we're using as a placeholder in the warrant, and that's what's kind of being reviewed. It doesn't mean it has to be final. You still have your final vote and closing the public hearing, but it'll at least be that placeholder for all other boards. And I think your next meeting, so.
It's
the-
2 weeks out.
The select board is meeting on the 31st, hopefully with a finalized warrant, so that they can make their favorable recommendations. So I would say if the board could potentially meet being next week, if not next week, the week of the 31st on the 1st, April 1st. That will still give us time to have a meeting with the select board on the 7th to finalize the warrant, because then we need to post the warrant 14 days prior to town meeting, so we need to have the warrant posted 100% on April 14th. We like to get it posted on April 11th, which gives us like, what, I'm sorry,
You said April 7th?
yes.
At candidates night?
We could put it on the 8th, just a week of the 7th is what I mean. So
Okay.
like the week of the 7th, we would need to do something because we like to post it on the Friday in case there's like something happens and we have time and either we're good to go and everything's locked in on Friday or like all hands on deck, we need to get this done Monday, something happened. So that just leaves you really kind of 2 weeks. But that being said, I think
April
it's
1st would
it's
be okay.
wise to keep the public hearing open, vote on these last final matters, have Innes Associates finalize the document, get it back before the board either the week of the 24th or the 31st, so that we can get final review by the select board on the week of the 7th for posting that Friday or Monday.
That sounds good to me.
And the first is just our normal meeting,
Right.
April, right?
The first and,
First Tuesday, yeah.
Yeah, that's what we have booked already.
Yeah.
And I know we,
You memorized all that, right?
She was taking notes.
the other part of it that I, as I'm thinking, as we're doing now, talking about keeping the public hearing open, we never really voted to open the public hearing before we started discussing this, but I think it's
So
kind of,
still- so still-
we can, it's,
well, it's continued.
it's,
Right.
it was continued, you're right, all right.
Right.
So we can go, so to add section, number 1 there, to add section 4 to be the title of multifamily, that's this one here, the section 4, 6.4, family overlay,
Yeah, 6.4 is the overlay district.
is F, okay.
It's the whole.
The whole thing? okay.
Right.
6.4 is the whole thing, okay. So I can read this as is and that,
Because it's 3 articles.
Right.
right.
Yeah.
And I'll read each 3 and then we can, and then we also have to select, that's a separate vote of Salem Street. I know we're all in agreement, but we know we have to make that determination, so.
And that will be included in the language under 2 in the warrant article.
Gotcha.
So that's part of the zoning.
Yes, you don't have to vote on the articles tonight, just those 3 pieces. The site plan review, the district, and the affordable housing, so that when we can come back to you with the full package of language, which will include some changes to several different sections of your bylaw, and then you can do that whole piece.
Okay.
All right.
So I'll make a motion. I guess I can make a motion to, I don't know how I'm going to do this, but sure. Make a motion to add Salem Street as the district in our 2025 zoning changes,
The multifamily overlay district.
multifamily overlay, MFOD, is that what we calling it?
MFOD could work,
MFOD?
yep.
Is something else? You guys use something else?
The sample zoning had the MBTA communities multifamily overlay district, which comes out to MICMOD, but I think that
Okay.
was starting to get a lot along for people. So
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of
All
MFODs.
right.
MFOD sounds good.
All
Or
right.
MFOD. A lot of people do MFOD.
Okay. So make a motion to select the Salem Street District as the MFOD, multifamily overlay district, for presentation. With that, I'd also like to approve the affordable, that's the paragraph stating the affordable housing,
Affordability requirements.
Yeah, the
affordability requirements,
yeah.
in favor of adding those, and also to add the site plan review into the multifamily overlay district of 4 units or above, or I think it's
Or
4.
Right.
Yeah.
With the planning board as the site plan review.
With the site plan review, yep.
I'll second that motion.
That good? That good? That fly, that work? It was a hack job. It was a
Fantastic.
hack job.
I think it's
No,
fantastic.
It's gonna look great in the meeting minutes.
I'm thinking so many different things on the inside. Motion made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So moved. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Emily.
Thank
I'll
you.
move to continue the hearing on the 2025 zoning changes.
Seconded.
To,
To,
April 1st.
April 1st.
Tuesday.
and I don't want to leave, because
7 p.m.
your timeline sounded miserable to me.
it's
so-
awful.
Yeah,
I'm not
so,
gonna lie to you at all. But that being said, I think that we can work with Emily and her team to get pretty much a final draft that they would present to you on the 1st, on the warrant, so that it is not completely foreign to the select board at their 31st meeting.
Okay.
We will make this, now that I've stepped away from the microphone, my apologies. We will make this a priority, understanding your deadlines, we'll make this a priority to get this to you so we meet those. So,
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
So if you're good with the 1st, then we'll do the 1st.
We can do it. It's not a big deal, as
Okay.
long as we can work with the,
Are you guys available the 1st?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Putting it in my calendar as we speak.
So, Pat, we'll just amend that motion to continue the public hearing of the 2025 zoning changes to the April 1st meeting.
Yes.
Yep.
Seconded.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So moved. Thank you. All right. Public hearing. Entertain a motion to, it's continued, so we don't have to open it. So we'll, public hearing for 441 Main Street. I gotta find, I think I have the.
What about
letter right here.
181 R School Street?
We'll go back to that after we do.
Okay.
Because I just want to be nice and quick. 441 Main Street, SC Park, public hearing, according to general law, Mass General Law, Chapter 40A, amendment to the application made by SC Park Trust premises on 441 Main Street. Map 24, lot 009, located in residential district. The site plan review and special permit under the Aquifer Protection Bylaw of the Groveland Bylaw. Have a note here from Mr. Ogden to Rebecca and Andy. The SD Park Trust would like to respectfully withdraw their application for site plan review in the Aquifer Protection District without prejudice. So they are, as of right now, not moving forward without prejudice. So if, entertain a motion to
To close the hearing?
we can close public hearing, and we can also, after we close it, well, we can actually, we'll accept the application, accept the withdrawal of the application during the public hearing, and then we can close it. Without prejudice, yes.
Specify.
All right, I'll make a motion to close the public hearing on 441 Main Street, ST Park. Is that two separate ones or one?
That's good.
Okay,
Good stuff.
Seconded.
all right.
Motion made and seconded to close. All those in favor?
Aye.
So moved.
I will make a motion to accept the withdrawal without prejudice of 441 Main Street, ST Park.
I will second that.
Motion made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So moved. All right. Okay. 181R School Street. Discussion, possible vote or permit application. Do we have any updates
So-
here? I know this is kind of a Brad's not here tonight.
Yes, at the last meeting, there was a couple of things that you wanted to put in the agreement, so you kind of approved it with those added, but we wanted to show you the final product, which was the special conditions number 2, which is the prior to site work construction portion of the decision. The applicant is required to, can put forward the water and sewer connections into the school street portion of the roadway, and that the applicant is required to adhere to the highway department street opening policy and trench repair specifications dated February 27, 2025, and I just noted that there is a typo on that, so I will fix that. So close. So we will get that fixed, but essentially it just references the specific trench repair specifications so that there's any question as to what they do in the roadway and the repaving that comes through from Mass DOT, they will be held to those standards, and whether or not they have to come back and fix the roadway, it will not be the town, and it will not be a waste of funds that have been provided to the town for that specific repair. And then the second outstanding item was that Brad was curious as to the actual physical amount that we would be taking in. So for the construction monitoring, we received a quote from TEC, it's for $20,300, and then for the bond, which we agreed to do the tripartite agreement, and that was for $1,050,000 for ensuring the site is in construction and accordance with the approved plan. So those were the two final figures that we had added to the document as well. So other than that one typo, we should have a final document for you to sign.
You said 1 million what?
1,050,000.
1,050,000. Okay. Questions, comments, concerns?
So is that move to approve subject to the one typo, or
Yes.
It's what's that?
move to approve the definitive subdivision plan, subject to a typo?
Yep. Agreed.
What's the,
For
Second?
181 School Street.
for 181 R School Street?
So that is the,
I'll
Approval.
second
Here,
that.
I'll say it better.
you're good.
Okay.
Yeah, I was just gonna edit in to make sure that for the
Alright.
permit, to accept the permit, for application. For
Right.
Groveland
Yeah, yeah.
Redevelopment LLC, for this 6-lot subdivision plan, as well as the stormwater management and land disturbance permit. So,
Seconded.
motion made and seconded, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So moved. Hopefully no one had a discussion. We already had enough discussion tonight. Town planner update? Did we miss anything?
Just a few items. One, to let you know that we're gonna be holding the Economic Development Committee meeting on March 24th here at Town Hall at 6 PM to discuss the 150 Center Street REI and the process in which we're going forward with Mass Development and his associates to complete that project. Town meeting, again, reminder, is on April 28th. And we also have another street acceptance that we have that will be going before the Select Board and the Planning Board for Katy Lane. We ran into a similar situation with the Billis Way, which we were able to catch sooner rather than later. But the unique situation with this one was it was only 2 lots of the entire subdivision. All of the other lots were deeded appropriately. So those 2 property owners were able to deed that property back to the developer. So the developer is able to move forward with the acceptance process as we typically do. So that will be on your next agenda for April 1st, so hopefully we'll be able to move forward with that accordingly. So the Select Board will have it on their agenda on the 31st, and then you'll have yours on the 1st, and then hopefully when we have the second meeting with the Select Board, all of it will be ready to go on the warrant. But those are the only updates I had.
The EDC meeting's what time on the 24th?
I believe it's 6:30,
Okay.
but it could be 6.
Okay.
Could be the 23rd.
It's March 24th, and it's at 6 or 6:30, and I will definitely send out a reminder to the board
Okay, thanks.
if there's anyone who's interested in attending in addition to the representative.
Yeah. Thank you. I was actually asking as the representative to be there, to know when the date was, so. Okay. Anything else? Not reasonably anticipated? Good.
I don't have anything.
You guys have anything?
Nothing for
Have
me.
any Questions, comments, concerns?
All mine were anticipated. So,
Good? Good? You guys are making some eye contact there. I'm waiting for something to be said, but good, all right.
We're all good.
All right, motion to adjourn at 8:44.
seconded.
All's in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So moved. Thank you, Groveland, good night.
Groveland.